I'm Rob Davis, and this is the second part of my discussion on chronic fatigue syndrome. Today the subject is hormones. However, instead of just me talking into the camera for 7 or 8 minutes, I thought that we could cover some of the information down at our local canal. It's a bit more picturesque. The Birmingham canals have become a real escape for thousands of people during the lockdown period, for walking and for cycling. Here in the UK Midlands, we are lucky to have 100 miles of the old industrial canals, built during the end of the 18th and early 19th centuries. Exercise for chronic fatigue sufferers can be a tricky thing. Too little and your body wastes away, while too much can bring on all your worst symptoms. When I was at my worst, I found the local canals to be a peaceful place where I could do a little bit of gentle cycling. The wildlife in these green corridors, plus their rich historical legacy, also inspired me to become later a writer. And after 1990, I went on to write dozens of articles and 6 books. Now that sounds a lot for a sick person, doesn't it? But this all happened over a 20-year period. And I'm grateful that along with my Christian faith, this all helped to put purpose into my life. And chronic fatigue is extremely difficult to live with, especially when the decades roll by and you lose hope of ever getting better. Perpetual illness can and does naturally cause severe depression, even suicidal thoughts. Then when you visit your doctor, she will prescribe antidepressants, the modern cure for everything. They tried me with several, none of which helped, and some, like mirtazapine, had truly horrific side effects. Take 2, because Jane forgot to turn the microphone on. It wasn't me. Behind us, we're doing our regular walk that we do 1,000 times a year. Well, maybe not 1,000 times, but quite a few hundred. Behind us is Pudding Green Junction, which we get on, and we're on the main line canal heading towards Bromford Bridge. The whole walk from our house and back to our house in a circle is about 1.5 miles. By 1990, I'd been really ill for 6 years, sold a business, worked at a stately home, and then returned to the UK Midlands to start a family. This may sound like I was leading a normal life. I wasn't. I could maybe work for an hour or 2 a day, but that was it. I still continued to have brain fog, feverishness, and every cold that was going. Jane's looking for wildflowers, by the way. Also, I started to have night sweats, just as a woman has when she's going through the menopause. These were truly horrible. It wasn't a simple case of waking up in the middle of the night with a temperature, but I felt like I was going to die at the same time. The emotional suffering was enormous. And I started to have empathy for all middle-aged women. I was, however, still only a 36-year-old man at the time. And so to the subject of testosterone and DHEA. Just at that time, there was an article in the Daily Mail about low testosterone. It was a double-page spread and gave the experiences of 3 men. These were still comparatively young, but having night sweats, poor memory, and difficulties doing their jobs. Each had paid to see a specialist, and each man had been diagnosed as having low testosterone readings. I took the article to my doctor and asked for a test. Now this highlights one of the deficiencies of the GP arrangement in the UK. Yes, they will do tests for you, but you'll have to ask for them. This presupposes, of course, that you have done some kind of documentation and have actually diagnosed yourself. There's the rub. Anyway, my test results came back, at which point I should tell you that here in the UK, the range goes from 0 to 27, 9 being the low point. My reading was 8.9, well under the lowest acceptable level. I had successfully found the underlying cause of my night sweats. So the doctor was then obliged to put me on a permanent course of testosterone replacement. This was in the shape of gel in a 50mg packet, and you rubbed it into your shoulder or on your arm. Easy when you know. But I had suffered for a good 12 months before this was corrected. I mentioned in my first video about a substance called DHEA. Now DHEA is a hormone produced in the adrenal glands, and in a man especially it gets turned into testosterone and other things. It's essential to keep a man feeling well. as testosterone is vital for general brain and bodily health. Now, normally DHEA and testosterone start to decline at around the age of 50 years. But chronic fatigue had obviously brought my decline on that much sooner. Do your research, as it's a good idea for every man to supplement with this valuable hormone as he gets older. Women, of course, also need levels of DHEA and testosterone, but a lot less. Again, research will shed light on this for you. We now come to the subject of cortisol, the only hormone that you can't live without. Chronic fatigue, caused often by a viral attack, can seriously damage the adrenal glands. This can cause a loss of production of several life-sustaining hormones. Cortisol, or hydrocortisone as it's called outside the body, is often low in CF sufferers. Cortisol, your get up and go hormone, has a marked diurnal activity. It spikes to about 8 AM in the morning to get you going. Then, throughout the day, its level drops until it's at its lowest at around midnight. Therefore, to test properly, you need to take levels at 4 different times throughout the day. Also, a saliva test is much more reliable than a blood test. This, sadly, is where the UK NHS falls down, because generally speaking, they will not test you unless you ask for it. And when they do, they only do a blood test first thing in the morning. I applied to a private lab, paying about £75 to post off 4 small vials of saliva for a 24-hour period. The report then comes back as a graph, easy to interpret, as you can see. From mine, as you can see, it's nowhere near the green band that shows normality. And my graph only spiked because I took cortisol, a hydrocortisone tablet, mid-morning. Otherwise, it would have flatlined throughout the day. Once I started supplementing with hydrocortisone, 5 milligrams, 3 to 4 times a day, I made more improvement, but I still wasn't cured. I was only managing the illness. So what else is there behind some of the causes of CF? In my next video, I'll show how parasites can sometimes be your real problem. Thanks for listening. I really hope this helps. We'll talk again soon.